Welcome back to the Eternum News Network. This is episode 6, and we record live on twitch.tv/Davrim every Friday. Show starts between 6 and 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you would like to join in the conversation that we're having and be part of what I like to do as a new-aged radio call-in show, because I don't know if those exist on Twitch. I'm old and I don't have time to look it up, but I think it's a cool idea and people seem to like it. So there you go. So if you're listening to the podcast on any of your podcasting apps, or if you're watching it on YouTube, please come by if you're available on Fridays, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join the chat, hit the follow. I do stream New World 4 days a week, and we're starting to stream Sea of Thieves again on Saturdays with my buddy Captain Logan, so you can always come by and check that out. Also on the YouTube channel will be any of the wars that I'm in, either on stream or off stream, so you can check out the war fights and the different specs and stuff that I'm doing and the different whatever else that's going on in the wars. So what can we say about New World right now? Last week I kind of discussed and talked about the upcoming January update, which we still don't know when it comes out. New World doesn't really give us that information. But if it follows any of the normal patch processes that they've done in the past, we're probably going to see it next week at the earliest, probably the last week of January. They seem to like to do patches right at the end of months, which again, it bothers me. It triggers my OCD to no end. Because if you say it's a January patch, it should be the patch I'm playing in January, not the patch that comes in January that I then play in February. It just doesn't make sense to me, but that's how it goes. So we talked about that a little bit last week, and we've learned a little bit more about that patch, which I'm going to talk about here in just a few moments. We also got a hot fix this week. So we'll go over a few things that I consider probably the critical pieces, and unfortunately where they say they fixed something, but they didn't. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Obviously, in the news, I want to keep you informed that the winter event, if you haven't got all your stuff, which I have not, from the current winter event that has been extended to January 25th, and coming up very soon, and I don't remember the date on that, but coming up very soon, the freebies that you can get out of the store are going to be coming back to the store as well as freebies. So if you missed them the first time around, I think it's the Wheel of Time stuff. I think that's what it is. No, that's not correct at all. Those were Twitch drops. It's the weird hats and the Christmas outfits and the New Year's outfits. Those ones. If you missed them, they are going to come back. I don't know if they're going to be there for a while or if they're just going to be a very short amount of time. But make sure you follow New World's Twitter account so you will know when those come back, and you can make sure you don't miss them this time. A lot of people like some of the outfits. I personally think they're all garbage, but that's just me because I'm very particular about the way my character looks. And I'm kind of weird about that. So there's that coming up. And then we've got a few other things to talk about, and I'm going to start. I know in the very first episode of this podcast, I mentioned that I wanted to start getting into different types of builds. People can obviously email the show. It's in the show notes. You can join the live chat, of course, or you can hit me up on Twitter or join the Discord, and all those information is in the show notes. So you can have plenty of ways to get a hold of me. If you would like to submit your build and let me take a look at it and then talk about it, I will be happy to do so. There's an infinite number of builds that you can do in this game. Obviously, if you're trying to be competitive in wars, or you're trying to win invasions, or you're trying to do one-on-one duels, or you're trying to do small team battles or open, there are so many different ways to play this game. And of course, one build is not going to necessarily work for everything. Some little tweaks in either gear, stats, or points that you put into your different skills are going to change what type of content you're doing. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later, probably the last section of the show. But let's start off with the hot fix that we got this week. There were a few minor things. I think the servers were down for a couple hours overnight, at least Eastern Standard Time. So it really didn't affect me a whole lot because I only play in the evenings. Okay, I lied. I only play in the evenings. I am online just about all day, every day. just because I am. But I usually only am actually physically playing during the evenings. During the day, I'm working and not actually focused on the game. But I'm logged in, and I think as of today, let me look here. Oh, as of this, by the time this stream is over, I will have crossed over 800 hours played on this game. Jesus Christ. I'm not quite up to my Sea of Thieves hours yet. I still have probably about another 1,000 hours left before I catch up with Sea of Thieves, but Jesus. This game just came out in, September? And I've already got 800 hours in it. Ooh, choo chow. Oh, buddy. I love it, though. It's got a lot of issues, but I love it. Okay, so hot fix this week. Hot fix. First item that I thought was important to mention, fixed an issue where players were able to jump cancel the bow firing recovery. There is now a 0.33 second delay from when the arrow is released before a jump can be triggered. This is great, and this is awesome because it was kind of an exploit that you were able to do to jump cancel the bow firing. However, what I can tell you is where there's a will, there's a way, and if someone wants to exploit, they're going to do it. So though the jump cancel no longer works, there is another way. I think it's crouch cancel. So this bug, though part of it has been resolved with the jump cancel, this is still very much an exploit in the game that they did not completely fix, so that's a thing. So if you still see bow users jump canceling or action canceling, whatever you want to call it, the bow firing recovery, guess what? It's still not fixed. They just had to go around it a different way. And this is something that I've preached on and talked about multiple times when it comes to Amazon. They really need to do a better job at QAing. And I understand they've got a lot of issues that they're trying to work through. I get it. I understand. This game was a pretty close to a dumpster fire when it first came out because of its popularity, way more popularity than Amazon ever thought it was going to get. But the way they approached the release and what they did after the release, this thing was a complete dumpster fire. The fact that it still has some of the top daily logins of any game on Steam completely baffles my mind. And though I love the game and I'm a very big advocate of the game, and in fact, I convinced one of my good friends to get the game today, I still can honestly say it's got a long way to go before it's a clean, polished, and nice game. When it first released and I played it and I was like, wow, this is a dumpster fire, I can really honestly state that they probably released it a good 6 months at the earliest, if not 12 months early from what they really needed. But they had already pushed the date a couple times. They had already went through alpha and beta, open and closed. They had changed the direction of the game a few times. And honestly, the studio had just put so much money into the game, they needed to get a return on their investment. So I understand why they pushed it out on a business stance, but on a player-based stance and a player experience stance, it honestly was really rushed. And we're still seeing it all, now what? September, October, November, December. We're now in January, so we're now in month 4 of the game. Closing in on that half-year mark, and we're still seeing issues. We're seeing them fix issues, but they're not completely fixing the issues. They're not putting in that extreme QA, and I really think it's because they're depending on players on the PTR to test the functionality, to test the features, and provide them the feedback. And I will say this, I say this about Sea of Thieves, which is now a game going into year 4. I say this about any game who depends on their players to QA their stuff. It's not going to work. You need to have a team, or you need to be paying people in some way, shape, or form to incentivize them in order to do a quality QA test, right? You can't just assume that a player is going to go in there and find every single bug. You're going to have to give them You're going to have them sign an NDA. You're going to have to hand them a list of things that you've worked on and fixed. And you're going to have to pay them or do some sort of compensation in order to encourage them to test all those things frontwards, backwards, such as this thing right here. Yeah, you fix jump cancel, but guess what? You still have crouch cancel, or you still have dolphin dive. You still have whatever the case may be. If players find a way to exploit and get a competitive advantage against other players, the players are going to do it. It is just built into a competitive PvP game style mentality. If there's a way to do it, the players are going to find the way to do it, and they're going to exploit the shit out of it until they're either banned or stopped. That is just how it is. Any competitive game with some sort of bug or exploit that can give you some sort of competitive advantage, players do it all the time. Right, wrong, or indifferent, you know, there are players out there like myself who I might know about the exploits, but I actively choose not to do them. Why? Because that's not right. It's not a feature. It's not an intended feature in the game, so I don't do it. But there's a lot of players out there that it doesn't matter what the intended part of the game is. It doesn't matter if it's a bug. It doesn't matter if you can exploit it. If it means that they can be on the top of the damage meters, if it means they can be the best dueler, if it means they can be on the top of the ranks, it doesn't matter. Players want to take their small, insignificant EPing and feel like it's ginormous, okay? They want to feel their small, insignificant, shriveled slightly to the right EPing, and they want to pretend it's a horsecock. That is what exploiters are doing. They're compensating for something. They're small dick, small-brained humans. That's how it is. But game companies allow it to happen. Do I have a good beginner guide to New World? I don't yet, but if you want one, I can work on one. I don't have a beginner guide to New World yet, but I can work on one for sure. I don't have one yet. There's a lot of good ones out there, but I don't have one. But I can definitely work on one. But yeah, it's sad that players, it's really sad to me that players enjoy finding exploits and then utilizing them just to make them feel bigger. Because eventually that exploit's going to be fixed. And then what are you? You're just a shriveled up little worm on the ground because you didn't actually learn how to play the thing. You just learned how to exploit a particular feature. Yeah, it's I talked to a friend of mine today, and I told him it's a complex game to get into, right? It's not a simple game. First off, for a lot of players out there who are MMO players from the past, they're very used to systems of auto-targeting and things like that. New World doesn't have that. Everything that you do in New World as far as combat is all skill-based attacks. And of course, then you have to deal with latency and all that stuff. But everything is a skill-based attack. Yes, there are some AoEs, right? That if people walk into or you drop an AoE in an area, that's one thing. But there is no targeting system in this game. So you can't just like tab target like in World of Warcraft or something like that. It doesn't exist. Every shot that you take, PvP or PvE, is skill-based. There's also not features like threat tracking, right? So if you're doing a dungeon or something and you're putting down, big DPS, you're not going to know if you're close to or if you're overpowering the tank in aggro. It's just something you have to understand that if the mob turns and looks at you, you fucked up, or the tank fucked up. But you know what? I'm a tank and I don't fuck up. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to learn. I can definitely work on putting together a YouTube video. It'll take me a little bit, but I will definitely work on putting one together, and get it out as soon as I can. Absolutely. So let's see. Not all exploiters have something to compensate for. I myself in many games such as Counter-Strike Source, Minecraft, I don't know. Oh, Left 4 Dead 2 maybe. Gary's mod and my logic, I cheat because the prime normal way to play the game gets boring for me. But see, here's the thing. If the normal way of playing the game is boring to you, you shouldn't be playing the game. Cheating does not make the game more fun, right? And now also keeping in mind that things like Minecraft is a solo-based game. So if you cheat, you're not impacting the player experience of other players. I haven't ever played Left 4 Dead, so I don't know about that. Gary's mod, again, is a multiplayer game. If what you're doing to cheat impacts the experience of other players, that's not good. That's not what you want to do. If the game is boring and the only way to make it more exciting is to cheat and negatively impact the experience of other players, you shouldn't be playing the game. Just like Counter-Strike Source is another game you mentioned. It's again, If it's boring, don't play it. But cheating impacts the experience of other players. And that's not good, right? Because if you impact the experience of other players negatively, players will stop playing the game. And what are you going to do when people stop playing the game, right? If in my opinion, if a game is boring, if the only thing that's fun to play the game is to cheat or exploit, then don't play the game. Just don't play it. Just uninstall it, get rid of it, pretend it doesn't exist, go on to a different game. So there's that. But the big thing, the difference between a game like, let's say, Counter-Strike or Apex, where cheating can impact that round, right? So we have to kind of also differentiate a little bit. Again, cheating wrong in any way, shape, or form. But we have to differentiate the game style, right? In a game like Counter-Strike or Apex or Fortnite, a cheater can cheat and get a competitive advantage in a single round, right? Because it's a round-based game. It's a battle royale game. You play a couple rounds, you play a couple matches, you move on to the next match, right? You probably won't see those players very much at all, ever again, maybe. But like in New World, it's the same server. It's the same players. It's the same. Like every time you log on, it's the same players on that server. And in New World, when you are exploiting something or you are cheating, you are affecting the entire server. You might be affecting, like, for example, when we were having all the duping issues early on, you're literally affecting the player-based economy for the entire server. When you're duping items like Asmodium and Void Metal, and you're duping gold, you are negatively impacting the player experience of all the thousands of players on your single server. That is what you're doing when you are cheating in a game like New World or a game like World of Warcraft. So that's what you have to be aware is an MMO that is always online. It is always going on. The battles are constantly raging all the time. If you are cheating, most likely other people are cheating. So you are literally impacting the game experience for thousands of players over the course of however long that particular bug or exploit is going on. So really bad, especially if it's a game. And again, if you're choosing to exploit and cheat, I don't understand why you're even playing the game. Like, learn how to play the game properly. And if it's boring for you, then, don't play the game. But like thinking about the other players, and I know that sounds like some sort of, we are such selfish people in this world, right? We want to be the best. I want to be on the top of the damage meters. I want, me, mine. If you don't know the quote from that movie, I'm too old. But like, you have to think about the experience of these other players, because if you get into a new game and you run into someone who's cheating, and you're like, how the hell are they doing that? That's such a cheating move. Oh, that's cheating. And then you go to YouTube or you go to Google and find out it is a cheat. You feel robbed about your time playing that game. You feel awful because literally your game experience was ruined by someone breaking the rules. And that sucks. That sucks, And to the point here of, if you win with a cheat or cheats, you can't imagine you proud of the way you win. That's the issue, though. That's the issue that drives exploiting and cheating is people who exploit and cheat, they won. In their mind, they won. And that's all that matters in competitive games, in their mind, right? And it's that selfish way of thinking of, I need to win, and I'm going to do everything it takes to win, and that's a problem. That is a huge problem, right? And that it's just, yeah. All right. Moving on to the next one. Fixed an issue with permanent disease and slowing being applied in PvP. So, when the game first launched, the hatchet was a popular weapon. It had an exploit. That's why it was popular. Now it's a dead weapon and barely anyone uses it. But the disease of the hatchet, basically what it did was it prevented healing. So it stopped healing by like 30% or 50%. It was some number that it reduced the amount of healing if you were diseased, right? Well, now we have other options and other ways to get disease on players through plague strikes and stuff like that on our weapons. And unfortunately, that along with being slowed, if you applied a slow to someone, it was being permanent. So you permanently had a reduced healing. You permanently had a slow effect on you in PvP. And in player versus player, that is a huge problem, right? If you're not being able to be healed, that's you're going to die, right? And when you die, you hurt your team because your team needs you. If you're being slowed, there's a lot of movement in this game that's required in order to be good. You got to be able to dodge. You got to be able to run and chase and get on top of someone. You have to be able to retreat and things like that. Not being able to move and not being able to heal is basically like, why do I even PvP, right? So these things were fixed. However, what we have to keep in mind is that they still have yet to fix the permanent movement bug, the lack of movement bug in PvP, which is game impacting. Like the game itself has a bug that causes you not to be able to move in PvP, and not an ability like a slow or a disease. And then there's also another bug / exploit where you can get permanent haste in PvP, like wars and stuff like that. So though they may have fixed the player triggered disease and being slowed in PvP, they still have not fixed their code around issues that their game actually has integrated inside of it, which can cause lack of movement and or permanent haste in PvP. And if you're one of those people smart like me, you know, trying to 5-head it, if I get the movement bug that I'm super slow in PvP, can I just counter that with the haste bug so it evens me out? The answer is no. The answer is no. You cannot do that. It does not work that way. The real question here is, do you know what movie that came from? The real question is, do you know what movie the my... No, it was not Finding Nemo. It was not Finding Nemo. How dare you? Okay, Finding Nemo was a good movie. Okay, so Finding Nemo was good, but it was definitely not Finding Nemo. Honestly, who throws a shoe? Okay, so Nemo was, yes, so Nemo had the seagulls that go, mine, mine, mine. Yes, but the me, mine. That was actually Hook. It was Captain Hook from the movie Hook. Now. Captain Hook from the movie Hook, with Robin Williams playing Peter Pan. Everyone who's old like me, who is listening to this podcast when it releases on podcasting apps, like, I knew that. Captain James Hook. I knew that. Oh, you need to watch that movie at least twice a year. That is by far the best Peter Pan movie that's ever been made, and it's the best rendition of Captain Hook that's ever been done on the screen. God, he's so good. Did I watch Pan? Yes, I watched Pan, but Hook is better. The only Captain Hook that could even level up to the Hook in Hook is Captain Hook from the TV show Once Upon a Time. That's the only Captain Hook that could live up to that Hook. I will die on this hill. I will die on the hill. Okay, next one. Fixed an issue with players sliding when animation canceling Void Blade heavy attacks. Again, Look, from the very beginning of this game, players were trying to figure out ways to do attacks quicker, to move quicker, and what we found was there's different ways to action cancel, right? Sea of Thieves has it. They've tried to get rid of it. There's a whole bunch of games that have action canceling. It's just part of unfortunately how we have to code some weapon switching and stuff like that. It just exists out there. But what New World has struggled with, just like the bow jump cancel that we talked about earlier, the issue that New World runs into is that players are now getting more creative with their ways of canceling. So we have the jump cancel with bow. We now have crouch cancel with bow. This is another example. Sliding, when animation canceling with the Void Gauntlet. I don't know necessarily how much the sliding really provided any sort of competitive advantage. I never really saw it myself, and I don't use Void Gauntlet, so I don't know. But I know things like dolphin diving and stuff affects the game in a negative way. So anything dealing with animation canceling and movement stuff is probably an issue that they need to probably address, which they're trying to here. I just really think they need a better QA process. Stop trusting players who like to exploit as your QA team. Just saying. Look, pay me a salary. I'll QA all the shit you want. I'll sit here and play New World all day and QA the out of it. I'll do it. Something that got kind of, I don't know if it's leaked or if these are notes. They look like notes directly from the, oh my God, that's so small. Zoom in for my old eyes. 250%. Now I can read it. So last week, in the last episode, we discussed the new feature that's coming in the January patch, and that's the mutation orbs for expeditions. Now, it's stolen from World of Warcraft. Okay, let's just get that out. I talked about it last week, but let me just reiterate this. Okay, if you don't believe that expedition mutation orbs are directly Mythic Plus stealing from World of Warcraft, I don't know what to tell you. You're clearly just not able to process. Right? It's the same damn thing. This is New World's Mythic Plus. And all that they did was they said, hey, wow, you have a really cool system that seems to work. Yeah, we do. Hey, we're going to take it. Okay. I mean, I don't think there was ever a conversation going on, because I'm pretty sure WoW never has a conversation, or Blizzard doesn't have a conversation with any of the shit they steal, most of their concepts, when they steal it. So, again, it's Mythic Plus from World of Warcraft. That's end of the day. That's what it is. But a few things that they're updating to this, and I'm really glad to see this. It's actually going to make the PvE side, the high-end PvE side of this game much easier. Because there's a lot of PvE players in this game that they want to be able to run dungeons. And right now, trying to run a dungeon is a pain in the ass, because you can only craft one key per week. And if you can only craft one key per week, that means you have to purchase your slot in another group. And they're expensive to make. So what's going to be nice here is materials used to craft expedition keys. So the parts that go into the orbs. So that includes the chisels, the corrupted fragments, shards, crystals, and lodestones will all be tradable. Okay, let me say that again. Chisels, corrupted fragments, shards, crystals, and lodestones will all be tradable. That is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Like, this is something that they should have done a long time ago. So having that tradability there of those items are going to make people's ability to craft these keys a little bit easier, and it's going to help boost the market. So right now, the only really thing that you can purchase for these keys, you can buy the rune stones, you can buy the pieces to go into the rune stones, but you have to get the chisels with a ridiculous amount of faction tokens and gold from your faction vendor. It's just a pain in the ass, right? It's just a pain in the ass. And so the way to get into these expeditions is not friendly at all. And now adding a new thing like mutators or Mythic Plus to this, players are going to want to do more of these dungeons. They want to be able to try this stuff out. There's going to be a competitive scene of people, just like in PvP competitions. There are going to be competitive people out there to see how fast and how complete they can make these runs. And this is important. Being able to get access to the orbs is very, very, very important. So good job, AGS, on this one. Expedition mutating tuning orbs can be crafted once per week and will also be added to the faction shops and can be purchased once per week. So you'll be able to get 2 mutation orbs per week. So that's nice. Again, you have to have it paired up with a dungeon orb as well, and you can only make one of those per week. So you'll still be able to, help other people. Like if they've got an orb and you want to mutate it, you can have it mutated and they can have the orb, or whatever that case may be. I really think they need to up the amount of expedition keys you can make per week to 2. If that's the mutating orbs. I personally think you should get up to 5, but that's just me. I like doing dungeons. So that's just me. Let's see here. To keep parity with expedition mutating orbs, normal expedition tuning orbs for Dynasty, Genesis, Lazarus have been added to the faction shops and can be purchased once per week. So now, again, you can make an orb, you can buy an orb. You can make a mutating orb, you can buy an orb. So each player will be able to, on their own, if you've got the trade skills, if you've got the points, you will now be able to purchase an orb and you will be able to make an orb. So therefore, you can do 2 dungeons every single week, which is going to be great for me because I can make them, which means I'm going to make some money. I'm going to make some money. You can transmog in New World to an extent. So New World's transmogging system revolves around things you purchase in the store or Twitch drops. So since it is an Amazon company, they do a lot of Twitch drops. In fact, there might be Twitch drops going on right now, and if you're in this channel, you're earning them. I don't remember if they've stopped now or not this round, but they usually have a new Twitch drop every single month that you can earn. You can also, if you have Amazon Prime, you also can get free cosmetics through Amazon Prime. And then every patch, there is a new set of cosmetics that you can purchase with real life money. That's the way they make their money, right? This game doesn't have a monthly subscription like a World of Warcraft or a Final Fantasy. You use real world money to purchase stuff out of the shop, and those can be your transmog items. Unlike World of Warcraft, where every single item you pick up in the game adds it to a transmog library, that is not the case with New World. New World, the only transmog pieces you can have are cosmetics you purchase or cosmetics you get from Twitch drops or Amazon Prime. That is your cosmetics that you can use to transmog. And you can mix and match, right? My character has a variety of different things that I've mixed and matched. And the only thing that I'm still upset about is the helmet. But again, the game is only 4 months old, so we'll see what helmets come out. But that's the type of transmogs you can do. And you'll see once I get into the game here after the podcast, you'll be able to see, I've got just about everything that I won't say everything because I don't buy everything in this game like I do in Sea of Thieves. But there's definitely a huge variety if you want your character to look goofy, if you want your character to look super plate mail armor like, if you want your character to look like a plague doctor. There's a lot of different cool looks in there. Now, what I will say is the transmogs, you cannot actually dye different colors. The actual armor and the actual armor in the game that you pick up as your gear, you can actually change that gear's color. So even if you don't want to spend money on a transmog piece, you can always get the armor bits you want in the game and then color them the way you want. The nice part is when you get to high levels, there are several different sets of armor and weapons in the high level, and each of those sets look differently, but can have the same stats and attributes at the bottom because they're crafted. Now, if you find something, a specific item that you find out in the world, like a named hammer or a named axe or a named bow, those will have a unique look that you won't be able to do anything with unless you transmog them. But if you get like a set of armor, like let's say the orichalcum heavy armor, that's got a look to it, and you can dye that a different color. Or maybe you get, the infused fur boots or whatever the case may be. You can craft these different items so you can get a look that you like, and then you can change the color based on that. But that's the nice part about this game is it's very much crafting centric when you get high level. There are some drops that you want to get, right? Like healers want Will of the Ancients, right? That's one of that's like the best in slot healing item. There's different weapons like that. However, most of your gear is going to be gear that you craft or someone else crafts for you, and you just find the gear style you like, and you just go with then try to get the perks that you want on it. But for me, I spend the money because I enjoy this game. I want to support the development of this game, so I do buy the stuff out of the cash shop. So, yep. Next item that's been added to the PTR, to reduce the cost of all items in the inventory taking durability damage on death, we made a change so that only bound items take durability damage on death. So that means gear that you might get out of a dungeon or gear that you might get out in open world that is bind on equip. So long as you don't equip it, it will not take damage. So therefore, you can get back to town and put it on the auction house and not have to repair it and use your money and repair parts in order to fix something that you're not wearing. You're just trying to sell it. So that's a good change as well. On the PTR, a cooldown was accidentally applied to the Covenant faction shops. Haha, get fucked, nerds. I mean, what? Chunk of condensed iron instead of mutated expedition tuning arm. This has been corrected. Nice. Well done. Good job. Good. Wow. Yeah, this is a really important item. Let's just change it and put God damn it. At least it was on the PTR and it didn't make it to live, so Covenants really did get screwed on that one. I mean, I play Syndicate, so I don't really care if Covenant gets hurt or not, but that's funny. That's actually kind of funny. So that's kind of the news that's going on right now with some of the stuff coming up. Again, I anticipate the patch. I haven't seen an official date yet, but I do anticipate the patch coming up within the next 2 weeks is obviously because that's the end of January. I would be surprised if it's next week. I would guess that it was going to be the last week of January as it sits right now. So a few other things that I've kind of noticed in playing. I've been in a lot of wars recently, a lot of invasions, and unfortunately something that I thought was getting better and going away is slowly starting to return. And I don't know if this is because we're getting to the end of a patch cycle or they need to reset the servers more often. Again, we just got a hotfix like yesterday, I think. So I would be anxious to see if things are a little bit better now with the servers being reset on not reset, but refreshed basically. And that's lag. So lag in actual open world's not too bad, but when you get into invasions and wars, the lag is starting to come back. And this was a major issue in the very start of the game where basically large scale 50 on 50 wars became a slideshow, where players were just standing there and you thought they were there, but they were really not, or you were swinging at someone who's just standing there and not moving. They're all the way on the other side of the battlefield, but still taking damage because things were desynced and latency and lag and everything else. Though it's not back to that point yet, I have noticed a lot of major rubber banding issues in war and also some major disconnect issues in invasions. Now, in war, obviously, it's really important for there not to be a whole lot of lag because losing a war could potentially mean you lose your town, lose your territory, which could be a huge amount of income. For example, my company owns Windsward, which is the most sought after territory in the entire game. It makes a ridiculous amount of money each and every week through taxes. And so losing that would be really bad for us. And more so, losing it to something like lag and rubber banding would feel really bad to us because it didn't had nothing to do with our skill or abilities, but literally just the game was dog shit at the time. So I really hope Amazon continues to work on the lag and rubber banding, because the last place you want lag and rubber banding and latency issues is on a 50v50 war, which ultimately can change how healthy a server is based on the amount of territories people control, right? And then in invasions need a lot of work, period, right? So first off, invasions are not friendly for a lot of different builds. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit when I discuss the different types of builds that are kind of out there in the meta and stuff like that. But there's a lot of issues right now in Invasion, one being the actual roster for the Invasion. So as of right now, the rosters for Invasions, whoever is the owner of the town that's being invaded can select 10 people for their roster. Regardless of how many people are in their guild or company, they can select 10 for the roster. And then everything else is auto-filled based on the list on a first-come, first-served basis, and if you're online when invites go out. Once you're in the invasion, you've got the 15-minute countdown timer. The people in charge of the town, or whoever's in charge of the roster of the invasion, can begin to kick people out, and then the autofill system will fill in the next person. However, it's a really shitty system, because if you get pulled into an invasion, if you're in the middle of doing a quest and you signed up for an invasion, you weren't one of those original 10 people, but you get auto-filled in, you get kind of excited as a player, like, yeah, I can finally take part in an invasion. This is going to be awesome. And then all of a sudden you just get booted out because you weren't someone that the company wanted in there. It's a really bad player experience. And I really think Amazon needs to think about making the invasion roster the same as the war roster. So whoever is in control of that town and thus building the invasion roster, instead of just being able to select 10 people, they need to be able to fill out the entire 50 roster. Or at least a majority of them say they only want to fill 40 and then the last 10 people are just autofill and they're cool with that. That's fine. But especially when you're talking about cities that are fully upgraded, like on our server, Windsward and Everfall are, invasions are no joke. Invasions are very difficult fights, and so we have to kick people. We have to make sure we have the right people in there who know how to do things, who know how to tank, who know how to DPS, who know how to flex, who know how to do an invasion in order to win. They're very challenging. They're not easy at all. And so having a whole bunch of randoms, you're just setting yourself up to fail. And when you fail, you then downgrade your town, and then you have to go through the process of upgrading it again, which sucks. So I really think they need to relook at that. But first, before they relook at that, hey, let's fix the lag issues and rubber banding in wars and in invasions. I mean, hell, last night I did an invasion and we were like not quite to the halfway point. And I don't know what it was, but like one of the corrupted bears like did his little like paw slam down, like when he slams the ground, and like knocked a couple of us down, and then started to spaz out and do stupid amounts of damage like instantaneously and killed like 6 of us. And as soon as we got killed, it was like a slideshow of lag, and then it all froze, and then the game crashed. It was an entire group and a half of people that crashed at the exact same time in this invasion. I don't know why. I don't understand it, but that's a really bad experience. Thankfully, it happened early enough in the invasion that we were all able to get back into it in order to finish and win it. But if we had lost that invasion because a group and a half of people got freaking DC'd and the game crashed because of bad coding and lag on Amazon's side, that's really not what you want in the game. You want stability, okay? There are going to be balancing issues. There are going to be bugs. There are going to be exploits. There are going to be constant maintenance that you have to do. But at the end of the day, you want to have a game that's solid and a game that's consistently like strong as far as connection and quality of play, just on a lag base. You want that. You have to have that. If you don't have that, players will just leave regardless of how good your content is, regardless of how good your PvP is. They will leave just because they were in a battle and they lagged and it caused them to lose. No one wants that. It doesn't feel good. It's not fun. So Amazon really has to put a focus around the stability of their servers on this, and I hope they really start to put that on there. All right. So let's take a look at our last topic here. And again, like I said, I'm going to start taking suggestions from people either through emails, through Twitter, through Discord messages, whatever the case may be. I will start taking suggestions or your builds. Submit your builds no matter how crazy it is or how cool and how on meta it is. You can submit your build to me. Send me a picture of your build, whatever it may be. I said send a picture of your build. Okay, I don't need a picture of your butt. Send a picture of your build. Your New World weapon build. Let me emphasize the duh. No, don't do that because then you'll get pictures of other things. Anyways, your build, I will go over it I will look over it. I will talk about it, and maybe run it by some of my other PvP folks, and I'll give you my honest feedback, maybe some things that would be cool to change, maybe some perks or weapons to look at. But I like to go through some people's builds out there just because I know there's a lot of different ones. As for myself, I leveled as a healer, so I leveled all the way to level 60 as a healer, and then I started to switch around to some different things to play around them until eventually I landed on tank, which is what I do. Now, you may be saying, well, Davrim, why tank? Tank sucks in different things. Well, I enjoy it. I think it's really fun. But I can tell you that aside from wars, and even I can convince certain people that my build is good for wars, it just depends on what we're fighting against, right? That's the issue. And if we're on attack or defense, that's what it really comes down to. But there is a very big difference in builds for invasions, for wars, for duels, and for dungeons. Weapons in this game, there's different things that you would take for each of those. For example, on my tanking build, for invasions, I go in with my sword and shield. I always run leadership because leadership rocks. It's way better than the other one. I will die on this hill, and you cannot convince me that defensive formation is at all worth in this game. There is nothing in this game that you need defensive formation for. In fact, this game punishes you in many aspects for grouping up, which is what defensive formation is used for. If you are a tank, if you are doing any sort of PvP or PvE, and you feel that the only way you can be a successful tank is to use defensive formation, you should probably reconsider being a tank. Leadership is above and beyond way better than defensive formation. Yes, in order to get leadership, you do lose some of the mitigation on the side of the tank, the shield side. That's fine. You don't need it if you're a quality tank. I haven't had it, and I tank everything. I've done wars as a leadership sword and shield. Trust me, you can do it. It's fine. You don't need defensive formation. Pretend it doesn't exist. It's a shitty talent. Get rid of it. So for invasions, I'm running sword, shield, great axe. The great axe does have a carnelian in it for the aggro, because my job in invasion is pretty simple. Keep my sword out as much as possible in order to provide 10% damage increase to the rest of my party so they can blow shit up. Tank the bears, and when all the spearmen and the shield guys come out, taunt them, keep them on me. Right? That is my job. My job is to keep shit off of other players so they can do their job and kill shit. You can't tank commanders. You can't tank brutes. You can't tank spriggans. You can't do it. They don't care that you're there. They might turn on you and swing at you once or twice, but they care about the door. They're going straight for that door and to knock the door down. If you have the opportunity to throw a taunt or two on them in order to maybe, if they turn off that door to attack you, do so. But really your job is to keep the bears and the little mobs off of your team so they can do the damage. Why do I run Great Axe, you ask? Well, it's real simple. You can slow down all the bosses with Gravity Well. So I am like the last Gravity Well in chain. We've got like 3 2 to 3 great axes per door, and we basically chain one right after the other. The first guy throws the great axe, slows the boss down. Everyone goes pew, 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 pew. He stands back up. Next great axe, pew, 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 pew. And then finally, I'm the last one. And there you go. So that's what I run in Invasions. It's a great build. I've ran it for a very long time. Again, I need to be able to stay alive when my healers are focused on other people, right? I'm not important. I am not important to keep alive in a invasion, but I am important to stay alive, and it is my job to stay alive. If the healer has to focus on me, that is potentially a DPS that dies to an eye laser. That's potentially a DPS that dies to a charge of a brute. That's potentially a DPS that dies to corruption. Whatever the case may be, we need to keep DPS alive because they have to kill the shit in order to keep our doors up, right? So my job is to keep myself alive. And in order to keep myself alive, I need full constitution. So usually I run 300 constitution, and the rest in strength is usually what my build is. Now, with that being said, it's 300 constitution with my great axe out. So when I pull sword and shield out, I gain a little bit extra constitution, like 12 or something like that. And then obviously I eat my stat food, which is strength con stat food. Again, in order to bring my damage up a little bit. But again, damage is not my focus. Keeping myself alive is my focus. So my healer can focus on keeping our damage people up from just the miscellaneous damage that goes on during an invasion. And I can sit my happy little laughs off to the side with the bears and the little spear guys and stuff like that. Right? There you go. So for a war, well, there has been many times that I've ran sword and shield with Warhammer in wars. You can check those videos out on YouTube. I have run sword and shield leadership with Firestaff. Yes, you can check those videos out on YouTube. I have also run sword and shield life staff. There's a whole bunch of different combos. Sword and shield is a very, very fluid weapon because it can pair with anything. You just have to have the right gear for it. And since right now I wear full void bent, it doesn't effing matter what I have with it because all my stat points basically just go in whatever secondary it is. I do not, however, run full constitution in a war, unlike an invasion, because at the end of the day, damage matters in a war, right? So I need to be able to cause some sort of a threat to the enemy. So I bring that constitution down to 200 with my sword and shield out and everything else in whatever secondary stat it is. A lot of times it is strength because of the Warhammer, because of the stun abilities. Now, with that being said, I have recently switched over to Great Axe and Warhammer in wars. So that means I'm running 300 strength and 170 con, I think is what I'm running. Something like that, just with my gear and stat food and everything like that, so I can provide some damage. I'm trying to learn that a little bit. Warhammer and Great Axe isn't a build that I've ran this entire time that I've played this game. I've ran a little Great Axe and I've ran a little Warhammer with the sword and shield, but I haven't ran the combo by itself, so I'm very rusty at it. And I'm not exactly sure the rotations and stuff. So it's definitely something I'm learning. But the difference between the difference between what I was doing with sword and shield, I was usually in the like 90 to 93 rank, right? I'm a tank. I'm not supposed to be doing damage. That's where I kind of ranged in wars with sword and shield. My first war with Great Axe Warhammer, I was like 50, 52, 51, right? I was getting towards that top half, which is not good compared to some of our other Great Axe Warhammers, but a lot of those guys and gals have been playing that weapon for a very long time. So I've got a lot of practice to do, and that's kind of what I've been working on as well. So then we move to duels, right? I can do Warhammer, Great Axe, and duels if I wanted to, but you know what? I like my sword and shield a lot. So in sword and shield for duels, I run sword shield with spear. And it's a very annoying combination. It is called, I believe the build a lot of people kind of lean on is called the Spartan build. It is a very rare build to see out there, but it's very annoying on one-on-one combat. And the reason for that is, quite simply, it will stun lock the shit out of you and you will die. Because the opener of it is a shield charge, into a leg sweep coup de grace, into a shield bash, into a I believe then it's kick skewer, and then you reset the entire combo. So basically the idea is you either want them on their ass the entire time or you want them stunned the entire time. Either way, the sword and the shield both do or the sword, shield, and the spear do bonus damage for people who are slowed, stunned, or knocked down. So if you have the right gems in your weapons and you have the right weapons and you're taking the right perks, you can absolutely annihilate someone. And again, with that build, you want to get is probably like 150 constitution and over 300 strength. You will absolutely wreck people. If you want to be really juicy, you can put all your points in strength and dex and just have no hit points and hope to God they don't hit you. But that's up to you. That is completely up to you. Now we move on to dungeons. So what is my dungeon build? My dungeon build looks a lot like my invasion build. It's sword and shield with leadership, and I do run Warhammer, unlike not the Great Axe. And basically the entire concept as a dungeon is I'm the tank. So I've got 3 different taunting abilities. I've got Shield Bash. I have I can never remember what it's called, but it's where you bang on your chest and taunt everything. And then you've got the Shockwave slam with the hammer. Again, running 300 Constitution with the Warhammer out, which gives me a little bit bonus Constitution with my sword and shield. Stat food is strength with Constitution. And of course, putting all the points, all the remaining points in strength so I can get the extra damage to support my team. But that's what I kind of wanted to talk about in this when I talk about build discussion, because there's a lot of people out there, and I've seen it all the time in faction chat, in general chat, whatever it is. People are whining, complaining, upset because they can't get into an invasion, can't get into a dungeon, can't get into a war, whatever the case may be. Here's the thing. These are different types of content: invasion, war, duels, dungeon. And I'll be the first to tell you, I am someone who doesn't like to respec. I am someone who doesn't like to change weapons. I like to have something set. I'm a consistent person. I like consistency in life. It makes me happy in my pee-pee pants, okay? That makes me happy. What doesn't make me happy is inconsistency. But what you have to understand, and what it took me a while to understand, is each of these pieces of content require different things. In an invasion, if you're a DPS, you're only going to see a couple mages, not a whole lot. Okay? What you want a lot of is bow musket. That's what you want a lot of. That is what you want a lot of, because that damage is boom, boom, awesome against the corruption, especially with people with ruinous weapons, against the different, trebuchets and stuff. And those folks are in the fort, thus they are safe, and they can transfer around the fort in order to support all the doors, right? You obviously still want your big axe hammers, but not a whole lot of them. And obviously there's a lot of healers out there because it's kind of a fun thing to do. You only want 1 healer per group, not more. So if you're a healer out there, what I would suggest you do is learn other specs and or get really good and make a name for yourself as a repair/siege person, where you can be on the walls running siege, you can repair the doors, and you can throw healing out there. But never feel butthurt because you're not getting into invasions. Ask why. And if they say it's because we don't need your build, ask them what builds you're short on and start learning that build so you can get into that. And that's the same thing with war, duels, dungeons. Duels is kind of up to you, right? What do you want to learn? There are a lot of good one-on-one specs out there. There's also a lot of bad one-on-one specs out there. You just got to find what works for you. At the end of the day, play what you enjoy, but just understand, I enjoy sword and shield. Right? I enjoy it. I love sword and shield. I think it's a great spec. I think it could use a little bit of buffage. So it's allowed to be in some of these other pieces of content. But I've sat down with, my company members and stuff like that. And I'm like, look, I love sword and shield, but I also love fighting in wars. I love sword and shield, but I also like winning duels. I'm like, throw some other stuff at me. Let me hear some other stuff so maybe I can learn something else, right? So you have to be willing, if you want to partake in these different pieces of content in this game, you have to be willing to figure out what that stat priority is. what the perks are that you need on different things. You need to have multiple armor sets, multiple weapon sets, and you need to be skillful in all these different things, right? That's what I'm trying to learn right now is Great Axe Warhammer. That's what I'm trying to learn because that is what is something we need in wars, right? It's just like in wars. Unlike invasions where you want a whole bunch of muskets and bows, in wars, yeah, muskets are good. Yeah, bows are good, but you don't want a whole lot of them. Why? Because you've got to be able to push points, and those guys are ranged folks, right? You need some mages in there. You got to get some big balls of fire hitting them. You got to get some ice spikes. You got to get some void gauntlets. But you also need to have that big, beefy front line of warhammers and great axes that are going to protect you. And obviously you need the healers, right? So, and the other piece is, yeah, I know a lot of people love to be able to roll around. I think the light armor is great. I ran light armor for a while. Having that increased damage, having that increased healing feels great. But when you're in a war situation and you've got a giant ass axe coming down over your head, that light armor is not going to save you. If you have a giant ice spike going up your anal cavity, that light armor is not going to save you. I know rolling around and moving fast is really cool, but you got to be able to survive too. There's very few people that I've seen out there that go into wars and are successful with light armor. Very few, because you have to be fucking amazing at dodging and rolling, and you have to be really good as far as making sure the server has good connectivity, because if you start rubber banding, you're dead. You're going to get chopped in half. I play heavy armor all the time because I'm bad at video games and I need that extra cushion for the pushing. Because if you know what I mean, my shit's getting pushed in if I don't have heavy armor on. So that's why I run heavy armor. I would prefer to run medium, and maybe once I learn axe hammer a little bit more, maybe I'll take some of the armor off and go a little bit more medium, if you will, but not for a while. I've got to keep the assets protected, right? So, but yeah, so that's kind of my approach to builds. That's kind of my kind of advice to everyone as far as the different phases of this game, different high-end content. And when we get mutators coming out here in a week or so, what you have to also understand is there's another set of armor and maybe another set of weapons that you're going to have to get, right? If you're doing the different dungeons with mutators, you're going to have armor in order to protect you from these special abilities that they have. If you're going to be going against things like Angry Earth or Corrupted or whatever the particular mutated mobs are for that particular dungeon, you're going to need weapons that do extra damage, because these mutations are like Mythic Plus and WoW, and if you've never played them, they are difficult. They are not easy. There's a reason there's a scaling ranking system of Mythic Plus, and there's a reason there's going to be a scaling system of mutations. It's not for your casual, oh, I'm just going to walk in and swing my weapon around and cut through shit. That's not what it's for. It's meant for a group who is set up and ready to progress to bigger and better things, bigger and better gear, and they want a challenge in their PvE content. It's not for players who are just looking to dick around and swing their weapon and just slaughter everything. That is not what Mutators or Mythic Plus is built for. That is not what it is. So that is another thing that you're going to have to keep in mind going into this next patch, the January release, is that you're going to have to collect another set of armor to protect yourself and another set of weapons in order to do damage. So there you go. There it is. There it is. Guys, thank you very much for those of you in the Twitch chat live. If you want to check out the Eternum News Network live and take part in this radio podcast thing that I do, come over Friday around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Davrim on Twitch, and you can join in the conversation. And then afterwards, I do play New World, so you can always check that out as well. If you would like to listen to this podcast and you're in the Twitch chat and you missed some of it and you don't want to go back and watch the VOD, check out the Eternum News Network on all your podcasting apps. And also check it out on YouTube, Davrim TV on YouTube. If you're interested in Sea of Thieves, I also do a Sea of Thieves podcast, Pirate Talk Radio, on all your podcasting apps and on Pirate Talk Radio on YouTube. If you would like to help support the content, there's a multiple ways you can do so. There are obviously some links in the show notes to get you a discount on Death Wish coffee, or in order to get you some really cool stuff off of Humble Bundle. Those are ways you can support me. There are also some other links to support me, but the best way to do so is Patreon. So you can go over to patreon.com/DavrimTV. You can check out the different tiers that we have there, and I would thank you very much if you signed up for any of them. They do give you perks in the Discord, and some of them actually give you real-life perks as well. So you can check those out. If you do come over to the Twitch chat, I will say I do accept subs of all sorts, and I do accept bits on my channel, but I will tell you all the bits and the sub revenue that I get from Twitch goes directly to Extra Life and helping children pay for their health care. So none of the money that I get off of Twitch comes to me. It goes directly to the charity. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening to episode 6 of the Eternal News Network. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.